Dr. Gragg is the second witness, and I see that Dr. Gragg is Federal Policy Director for the Workforce Alliance, and she is based in Washington, D.C. Prior to her present position, she was at the Center for Community Change, coordinating national grassroots organizations in legislative advocacy. She has also served as a legislative assistant for Senator Wellstone. Rachel was awarded a Ph.D. from the University of Washington.
Chairman Hinojosa, Ranking Member Keller, members of the subcommittee, thank you for holding this hearing today and inviting me to participate. I'm Rachel Gragg, Federal Policy Director for the Workforce Alliance, a national multi-stakeholder coalition of CBOs, community colleges, unions, business leaders, local officials, and others from the workforce development field. Creating a skilled workforce to ensure America's economic competitiveness is an important and popular topic of conversation right now, and a properly targeted and resource-rich
Dr. Gragg, I don't mean to make you be a speed reader on that, and I understand that you'd like to get everything that you've written down in, but if I could just caution you again, we'd like to have a conversation with you, and we're happy to have it at a more moderate tone so we can really appreciate what you're saying.
I'll slow down a little.
I'll be a little liberal with it, but as I say, just cut out those parts you think we can get from reading your report, and the others will be fine.
I'll slow down a little bit.
Thank you.
A properly targeted and resource-weighted system could go a great way toward helping more of today's workers gain the skills our economy needs. To that end, we have submitted written testimony with extensive recommendations to make WEA work better for both workers and employers. However, for the sake of time, I will focus my remarks today on what we see as the three most important elements of an effective workforce development system: training workers, an efficient and adequately resourced public infrastructure, and creating institutional capacity to organize sector partnerships. First, the WEA system must adapt to the needs of the current economy by providing more training for skilled jobs. The committee is well aware of the fact that despite recent improvements by many local areas, WEA is still training fewer workers than did its predecessor program, JTPA. Of the $2.4 billion in adult and dislocated worker funds spent locally during 2003, only about 40% went to training services. The larger portion of WEA dollars has gone to less expensive core or intensive services or towards infrastructure maintenance. To improve access to training under WEA, Congress should first eliminate the sequence of services. Local WEA systems should be able to offer services in any order and in any combination, and ensure that the WEA system invests more resources in training. Congress should establish a required percentage, consistent with current averages, that must be spent on services with an emphasis on training. Congress should allow, with some limits, a portion of that percentage to be achieved by leveraging new public or private sector dollars. Second, while we feel WEA should train more workers, we also support continued investment in the two public systems that comprise our nation's workforce development infrastructure, the Wagner-Pizer Employment Service and the WEA One-Stop Career Centers and associated WIVs. We know there are valid concerns about whether current levels of infrastructure spending are warranted, especially when it seems to come at the expense of worker training. Currently, WEA's design, particularly when coupled with significant federal funding cuts, pits infrastructure spending against training as states struggle to meet multiple mandates with limited funding. Instead, Congress should decide how much money the system should be spending on infrastructure and then ensure adequate and consistent funding and evaluation. To maintain and improve the public infrastructure under WEA, Congress should first reject efforts to block grants to the employment services in WEA Title I programs. This has been a recurrent stumbling block that has prevented WEA's reauthorization in previous Congresses. And Congress should also establish a separate budget line item for WEA infrastructure. Establishing a WEA infrastructure line item comparable to the existing ES line item would establish a relatively predictable amount of funding available to state and local WEA planners, and at the same time allow Congress to set some balance between what is being spent on training versus infrastructure. Third, we encourage Congress to bring WEA current with the cutting edge of today's workforce development field, that is, sector partnerships that bring together a wide range of stakeholders to develop long-term plans for worker advancement and job creation within specific local or regional industries. Examples of these partnerships can be found throughout the country, including Project Quest in Texas, the Extended Care Career Ladder Initiative in Massachusetts, the Wisconsin Regional Training Partnership, Focus Hope and the State Regional Skills Alliances in Michigan, Washington State's Industry Skills Panel, and Pennsylvania's Industry Partnerships Initiative. These partnerships work in industries ranging from long-term and acute health care to manufacturing to biotechnology to transport and logistics, and they look at labor needs at multiple levels in each of these industries. In many cases, these partnerships, once established, can effectively leverage and target a local areas WEA training dollars and infrastructure to better assist an industry's growth. However, WEA currently provides no funding to directly support the development of such partnerships, and as a result, their existence is uneven across the country, largely dependent on those areas where there are additional state or philanthropic funds. Sector partnerships require unique capacity, different from that which is required to run a good training program or a good one-stop or ES labor exchange, and require distinct funding and performance measures. They are even different from what is required to run a good WIB in that they organize specific segments of the business community. Partnerships are organizing and planning endeavors, regularly convening a range of key stakeholders connected to an industry to assess how that industry might be saved or expanded through new shared workforce pipelines, investments in new technologies or other means of production, and new pathways for worker advancement. To create designated capacity for sector partnerships, Congress should first establish a separately funded sector partnerships subtitle under WIA. We urge the committee to work with the Judiciary Committee to legislate that the portion of H-1B visa fees currently being used by DOL without oversight be used instead to fund a new WIA sector partnerships subtitle. We also encourage Congress to ensure that any sector partnership proposal reflects a set of key principles, such as promoting true multi-stakeholder consortia, including multiple firms, labor, education and training providers, the public workforce system, and other participants deemed necessary. Such partnerships should also ensure that a wide range of workers, including low-income workers, benefit by prioritizing programs that include career pathways and by paying attention to wage and benefit standards. A partnership proposal should also recognize the leadership already shown by some states and allow state flexibility, take into account current expertise, and reward continued state investment. That's the end of my prepared remarks, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.